Picture this. It's 1977. You're 7 years old, sitting on a shag carpet, watching the Brady Bunch. Your mom just got home from her new office job. She's tired, distracted, still wearing that polyester blazer that smells like cigarettes and photocopier toner. Your dad, maybe he's in the garage, maybe working late again. Or maybe he's just absent in that quiet way men learned to be in the 70s, not gone, just not really there. On the screen, everyone is smiling, they're together, stable. Everyone is fine, and you believe it. You believe that whatever is happening inside your own family, that slow, quiet fading of connection is normal. Even progressive, because that's what the 1970s promised, right? Freedom, liberation, smashing the old ways. Your parents' generation was told they were breaking chains, rejecting the repressive 1950s, finding themselves. And maybe they were. But here's what nobody told you, what never makes it into the glossy documentaries about disco balls and bell-bottoms. While your parents were busy liberating themselves, you were learning how to raise yourself. And that changes a person. It changes you at a neurological level. It rewires how you understand love, trust, and safety. It produces something humanity was never designed for, the self-sufficient, hyper-independent, emotionally bulletproof person who is, at the same time, profoundly alone. The 1970s didn't just shift culture or economics. It engineered a specific kind of human, an adult survivor who was forced into adulthood long before childhood was over. That person is you. And the truth about what happened to your generation, what was done to you under the banner of progress, is something most people spend their lives running from. But you're here, which means some part of you already knows. So let's stop running. For nearly all of human history, children were raised by a village. Not a metaphor, a real, physical network of adults who were present and responsive to the needs of every child. Your nervous system, the very machinery that regulates fear, bonding, and safety, was designed for that world. Your brain evolved not for independence, but for co-regulation. It expected one thing above all else: consistent, reliable care. The 1970s took that away. And it didn't just take it from you. It took it from your parents, too. They were caught in a perfect storm of economic collapse and cultural revolution. Stagflation, rising costs, wages that suddenly couldn't support a household. One income wasn't enough anymore. So your mother, whether she wanted to or not, went to work. Not just because feminism offered a choice, but because the rent was due and your father's paycheck didn't stretch as far. At the same time, she was told she should have it all: the career, the kids, the independence. And she tried. God, did she try. But there just weren't enough hours in the day. So, you learned to get yourself ready for school, make your own snacks, and handle your own fears. And your father, he was raised to believe masculinity meant stoicism and strength. Now he was being told that very masculinity was toxic, something to be minimized. So he stepped back, quietly, emotionally, until he became a presence without presence, a father who was there, but not there. Biologically, the brain builds its relational template between the ages of 0 and 7. It learns how love works, how safety works, how trust works. And what your brain learned was devastatingly simple. Adults are unreliable. Even when they're physically present, they are emotionally absent. The only person you can truly depend on is yourself. That template becomes your attachment style. Psychologists call it dismissive avoidant. You learn to minimize your needs, to avoid depending on others, and to turn self-reliance into your core identity. You become competent, independent, and unneedy. And everyone looks at you and calls it strength. But it isn't strength, it's a compensation strategy. Here's what happens inside the brain when a child doesn't get consistent emotional attunement. The part of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, the anterior cingulate cortex, goes into overdrive. Someone has to regulate your emotions, and if the adults aren't doing it, you will. Meanwhile, the circuitry for social engagement, the part that reaches out for connection, starts to atrophy. You become a fortress, a state-of-the-art security system with a rusted-shut front door. You don't let people in, not because you don't care, but because you literally never learned how. And so, the patterns emerge in adulthood. A partner tells you you're emotionally distant, and you genuinely don't understand what they mean. In your world, showing up, providing, and being reliable is intimacy. Someone asks how you're doing, and you say, "I'm fine," because you learned at age 8 that nobody really wants to hear the truth. People come to you for support because you're the rock steady, responsible, and unbreakable, but you have no rock of your own. Needing others feels like vulnerability, and for you, vulnerability feels like danger. As an adult, this system starts to fail. Your relationships feel hollow. Your partner feels lonely even when you're right there. Your kids might have everything they need, except for real emotional access to you. Your body might even start to break down under the decades of unprocessed survival mode, chronic pain, autoimmune issues, insomnia, and exhaustion that sleep just can't touch. At work, you confuse control with competence. You see delegation as a weakness and resting as a failure. You unconsciously recreate your childhood dynamic doing everything yourself because you learned early on there's nobody else you can truly depend on. None of this was an accident. It was all framed as liberation. Women could have it all. Men could step back. Families could modernize. But in all that progress, nobody asked the most important biological question: who takes care of the children? The answer was no one. Or rather, the children took care of themselves. Economics demanded to incomes. The culture called it progress, and you became the experiment. You were the first generation of Latch-Key kids, raised by television, absent fathers, and exhausted mothers. And when the consequences finally surfaced decades later, what did the culture do? It blamed you. Go to therapy. Work on yourself. Fix yourself. But you are not broken. You are functioning exactly as you were programmed to function. Eventually, hyper-independence collapses under its own weight. The strategy that saved you as a child becomes the strategy that isolates you as an adult. Partners leave. Kids drift away. Friendships stay on the surface. Solitude becomes your default state. And late at night, in the quiet, you feel it not just loneliness, but the profound ache of having spent a lifetime fundamentally unknown. Here's the bitter truth: you were abandoned. Not violently, not dramatically, but quietly and systematically. Your parents loved you, of course they did. But they weren't present in the specific, consistent way your developing nervous system needed them to be. So, you became the reliable one, the strong one, the one who never breaks. But self-sufficiency cannot heal attachment wounds. Humans are not designed to heal from the inside out. We heal in the safe presence of others. But for you, receiving love feels like weakness. Accepting help feels like failure. Vulnerability feels like mortal danger. So, you keep people at arm's length and call it having good boundaries. And a deep part of you fears you will die like this, competent, respected, and completely unknown. But you're still here, still watching this. That means some part of you wants more than just survival, and change is possible. But it requires the one thing you fear most: vulnerability. It means letting someone in. Allowing yourself to need something from another person, asking for help. It means being truly seen, not for the strength you perform, but for the humanity you've been hiding. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content on healing and connection. You're not alone in this.